After the postponement of the 15th of December 2024 Rwanda summit, the situation aggravated on the ground due to the DRC's obsession with a military solution to this conflict. By prioritizing militarization of the conflict instead of embracing the regional mechanisms that have been put in place to foster a sustainable solution born out of dialogue, the conflict has continued to escalate, leading to the prevailing situation today. Mr. President, Council members, under the Rwanda process, a ministerial-level agreement was reached on a concept of operations CONOPS to neutralize the FDLR, a UN and US-sanctioned genocidal militia, and to lift Rwanda's defensive measures along the common border. The FDLR, which poses a direct threat to Rwanda's security and territorial integrity, is composed of remnants of the perpetrators of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi that claimed over 1 million lives. For decades, the FDR has found sanctuary in the DRC, where it recruits fighters, influences corrupt local elites, and spreads its anti-Tutsi genocide ideology in Congolese communities. This has led to ethnic cleansing and persecution of those local communities, with the result of hundreds of thousands of them now scattered as refugees in the region, and others in IDP camps. Today, the FDR has even moved from being a speculative force to a strategic ally of the Kinshasa government. Council members, the draft agreement under the Rwanda process that was supposed to be agreed on and signed during the summit of 15th December 2024 had three security concerns clearly identified, including by the mediator. The three clearly identified security concerns were the question of the FDR, Rwanda's defense measures, and the question of the M23. The CONOPS that was agreed on by the three ministers on 25th November 2024 addresses the first two elements by putting in place a timeline for the neutralization of the FDR and lifting of Rwanda's defensive measures. Only the question of the M23 was yet to be resolved. While the two countries were involved in discussions in Rwanda on a plan to neutralize the FDR, the situation on the ground was different. Since the first ministerial meeting of 21st of March, during which the then DRC had accepted to provide a plan to neutralize the FDR, the coalition between the FDR and the government of Kinshasa had increased. As we speak, it has never been more intense at any other time in recent history. As I said today, FDR has become an ally of the DRC army. Even on 25th November 2024, when the three ministers were busy in Rwanda signing the CONOPS, there were three high-level meetings between FARDC and FDR commanders that very day in Goma. This reflects the stark contrast between the good faith that the DRC wants to project to the international community and the lack of political will on the ground to end its strategic alliance with the FDR. Despite an initial agreement by the DRC to enter into dialogue under the Nairobi process, the DRC minister categorically refused for 9 hours the inclusion of any commitment for dialogue between the DRC and the M23. Therefore, since it was the only item on the agenda, the only solution was to postpone the summit, as Rwanda is not interested by a photo opportunity. The reason the heads of state were to travel to Rwanda for the summit was for one agenda item, to sign an agreement. And since there was no agreement to sign, there was no reason for the summit except to postpone it until the issues are all agreed on. Mr. President, Council members, the recent militarization by the DRC, including the formation of a broader coalition involving the FARDC, the FDLR, Wazalendo, 10,000 Burundian forces, 1,600 European mercenaries, and SADC-led some DRC forces represents an unprecedented security threat to Rwanda. For 2 years, DRC President Felix Tshisekedi has publicly vowed to instigate regime change in Rwanda. That's a very serious matter for us. A head of state who declares regime change on another country is a matter not to be taken lightly. This rhetoric, coupled with the coalition's significant military presence along Rwanda's border, is destabilizing and unacceptable. Rwanda also notes with disappointment the international community's failure to condemn the use of foreign mercenaries in this conflict, despite clear violation of the 1977 Organization of African Unity Convention and the 1989 UN Convention against the use of mercenaries, especially by state actors. The arrest of Romanian mercenary leader Horatiu Poltra in December 2024 underscores the gravity of this issue. Yet no strong action was undertaken, and no condemnation was issued by this Council or the European Union. Mr. President, Council members, I would like to highlight Rwanda's concerns on the role MONUSCO is currently playing in Eastern DRC. But first, I would like to be clear and to clarify that Rwanda is not hostile to MONUSCO, and no one should harm peacekeepers. However, facts are stubborn, and they speak for themselves. Rwandan concerns are threefold. One, MONUC, which later became MONUSCO, was first deployed in DRC in 1999. It is now 26 years since it was first deployed. The resolution that authorized the deployment of MONUC and all successive resolutions, including the one that turned it into MONUSCO, all gave it a clear mandate to neutralize FDLR. Unfortunately, with the presence of MONUSCO in Eastern DRC, the security situation only aggravated since then. Second, by going beyond its mandate of peacekeeping and protecting civilians, MONUSCO has now joined a broader coalition with a clearly stated goal, which is to enact regime change in Rwanda, which is another UN member state. This is because the coalition that has been put together by the DRC, including all the forces that I've named, have been clearly given clear mandate under President Tshisekedi to act towards regime change, because he's amassing this force for that purpose. We take this matter very, very seriously as well. Three, in addition, MONUSCO operations provide support to FDLR, a UN-sanctioned group, and to European mercenaries in violation of the 1989 UN Convention. This is unacceptable, and MONUSCO is at risk of being sucked into a conflict in which it would be a belligerent force. MONUSCO should focus its resources and troops to protect civilians, especially those in IDP camps, instead of fighting alongside this coalition. It is very important because it's a very clear mandate, and the mandate needs not to be changed because of the risk, especially that some of these forces, the Wazalendo groups, FDLR, have committed tremendous atrocities in Eastern DRC. So a force, an international force, to which we are all members, should not be associated with activities of such negative armed groups which have been sanctioned. Again, Rwanda supports MONUSCO and has no issue around MONUSCO except for those three issues that I have outlined. Mr. President, the situation we are facing today is no surprise to anyone. It mirrors the same situation 12 years ago. It is the result of the complete mismanagement by the DRC of a complex problem. The international community also has its fair share of the blame for being completely insensitive to the root causes of the problem and allow legitimate actors to operate completely out of their mandate. The situation we are in today prevailed exactly in 2012 and 2013. And that time no political solution was undertaken to ensure that the issue is resolved to its root.
This is a Congolese problem.
Council members, we now stand at a critical juncture where we need to find ways to return to the diplomatic and political processes that focus on practical solutions. Rwanda is of the view that these solutions might involve additional actors, primarily based in Africa, in partnership with the international community. We are committed to the regional process, to the Rwanda process, and to a peaceful dialogue, to a peaceful resolution of this issue. And we are ready to remain engaged in a peaceful process, because we strongly believe that there is no military solution to this problem. It has to be resolved politically, diplomatically, and with the support of all partners acting together. However, in order for anything to be successful, the DRC must play a helpful role. After all, this is a Congolese problem for which the DRC is looking to outsource its solution. The solution to this problem cannot be outsourced. It requires ownership and political will. And looking at the root cause of the conflict comprehensively and addressing them. Partners can support, but partners cannot fully own and resolve this problem.